Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade, and well, in this one I wanted to make my mid-season Retribution Paladin updated guide. A lot has happened since my last one. We now have the dinar vendor, we have the corruptions, and some other extra things I want to talk about. One small disclaimer, this will be a purely Mythic Plus guide since I'm going to be honest, I'm not raiding currently. And well, with that being said, let's go into the video. Okay guys, let's talk about talents. So this is the build that I'm going to leave down in the description of the video, but that doesn't mean that it's set in stone. There's a lot of changes that you can make here to adapt to different situations, either to help your group or to adapt to a number of targets in a dungeon. So first of all, on the paladin side of the talent tree, instead of taking Blessed Calling, you can always go with Sacrifice of the Just, so you have a 1 minute Blessing of Sacrifice. This is going to help your group, giving someone else an extra defensive, on a very short cooldown basis. If you're going to be doing that on the Templar Hero talent tree, swap to Bones of Fellowship instead of Unrelenting Charger, so you take less damage from your Blessing of Sacrifice and are not in risk of dying yourself. Now, Templar is going to be our de facto hero talent because, well, Herald is just too weak in comparison. On the Retribution side of the talent tree, there are some changes that you can also make. On the build that I'm going to be giving you guys, leaving Empyrean Legacy here because it just has really good synergy with Divine Hammers. Basically, every 20 seconds you get a Holy Power Spender that counts for 2, meaning that it's going to give you 3 seconds of Divine Hammer. In those 3 seconds you can fish for more procs to further extend the duration of Divine Hammers, and this is important because Divine Hammers just is night and day in terms of our damage. It just gives us so much power if you can extend it for a longer period of time. Now, if you don't want to play with Empyrean Legacy, you can also swap it for Searing Light. It's not a bad option. This talent, it just does damage. It doesn't really have any synergy with either Templar or Divine Hammers, but it's pretty decent because it does a decent amount of damage, and when it hits a lot of targets, it's pretty good. The problem is it has a RNG nature to it, so yeah, sometimes it's not going to be that great. But both options are okay. Now, the other change that you can make here is to either use Final Reckoning or Execution Sentence. Both are good in different situations. Sometimes there's less targets and you can go Execution Sentence. Sometimes there's huge pools where Final Reckoning is going to pop off. So I want to make that the focus of this part because we're not going to be talking about all the talents here because you guys already know that. Now, I wanted to give you guys what spell to use in the different dungeons, Final Reckoning or Execution Sentence. So let's go into the dungeons. First one is Dark Flame Cleft. Here, this is you could think this is a Final Reckoning dungeon, but for the most part it's an Execution Sentence. Most of the big packs have like little mobs that are very non-important that just die very fast, so it's better to just focus on the primary targets using Execution Sentence. The next dungeon is the Motherlode. This is a Final Reckoning dungeon because there's a lot of mobs, and those mobs have a lot of health that live enough to be to make Final Reckoning useful. Also tanks can pull huge here. It's just a really good fun dungeon for AoE. The next one is Operation Mechanism Workshop. This place is an Execution Sentence dungeon. Even though the first pull of this place is huge, after that you're basically playing like 4 things at a time max. So yeah, this place is an Execution Sentence dungeon. Theater of Pain, also another Execution Sentence dungeon. There's some places where there's AoE, but for the most part this dungeon has a ton of bosses, so you want to use Execution Sentence. Next up we have Operation Floodgate. This is a Final Reckoning dungeon. Tanks can go wild here and pull huge, so you want the most AoE as you can get. The next dungeon is the Rookery. So Rookery is an Execution Sentence dungeon, even though you can do big pulls before the first boss. And most of what this dungeon is important is killing the last boss, and you need big single target damage to do that, so Execution Sentence is going to be just better here. Next up we have Cinderbrew Meadery. This place is a Final Reckoning dungeon because, well, there's a ton of mobs here. Like the first 2 packs are huge. After that you keep pulling like big packs of mobs until the end of the dungeon. Next up and finally, Priori of the Sacred Flame is going to be a Final Reckoning dungeon. Obviously the first pull is going to be huge, with the mini boss and like 3 packs, and after that you keep pulling big. So yeah, Priori of the Sacred Flame is just going to be another Final Reckoning dungeon. And well guys, that's all for talents. Now let's go to the next part of the guide. Okay guys, let's talk about stats. So, stats for Retribution Paladin have already been consolidated at this point in the season, and well, the general guideline that you should use is the following. So obviously strength is going to be on top because item level is king on the most situations. After that you want to get critical strike, haste, mastery, and versatility. On critical strike and haste, they're pretty much equal in value. Both are really powerful for us. Critical strike because whenever your Empyrean hammers crit, they can AoE. And haste is really strong because it allows you to have a lower global cooldown, making it a lot easier to extend your divine hammers. You know, if you can extend divine hammers for a full single target fight, it's an incredibly powerful boost in damage. So yeah, that's going to be your general guideline. As always, use simulations to find out what's the best stats for you. And one thing that you should notice in my stat is get the least amount of versatility as you can. Get rid of all versatility if you can. Personally, I'm just using 150 verse here. It's because of one gem that I have just to activate my blasphemite, you know. But yeah, just try to get as lower verse as you can, and always sim yourself to see what's the better gear that you can use. Oh, I'm going to leave a link to a video where I show you guys how to do full dungeon simulations down in the description as well, so you can have a better idea on what to do. Now let's go to the next part of the video. Okay guys, let's talk about special gear. So here we're going to be talking about embellishments and the things that you can buy from the dinar vendor. First of all, embellishments are very simple. There's two of them that we're going to be using, and both of them are the same. You know, down thread linen, just a simple embellishment that gives you a bunch of extra critical strike when you have more than 80% health. Put one of them in your cloak and the other one in your bracers. Now, the other thing that we're going to be talking is from the dinar vendor. So obviously I'm a bit late on this. There's already a lot of guys that recommend you what to buy from this, let's say in Wowhead and all these things. And obviously if you're a mythic raiding player, you are going to want to buy 3 items that are incredibly strong for us. First one going to be, if you kill mythic Gallywix, you want to get the Jaster's Diamond. If you killed mythic Gallywix, you're obviously going to be also getting best in slot because you're going to having killed the one-armed bandit, and you are also going to get House of Cards. That is if you're a mythic Giga Chat raider. But what if you're not a mythic raider? What should you buy from the vendor? So if you're a mythic plus player that got 3 KIO or just a heroic raider as well, you can get the following. So your first important big buy would be the improvised Sephorium Pacemaker if you're a mythic plus player and don't have it. This is a really powerful trinket, just very consistent. After that, you should go and get a heroic Jaster's Diamond. Even though it's heroic, it's a ring that's giving you free stats, you know, for the most. And the stats on the ring themselves are not bad. It's a bunch of mastery and a small amount of haste. After that, you should be getting your House of Cards. Even if it's heroic, it's a pretty decent trinket on use every 1.5 minutes. Now, why don't you get, for example, like best in slots on heroic item level? Because, well, weapons are a bit more tricky. The damage that a weapon gives you is more important on the damage per second, because that's what your abilities are going to take in account to calculate the damage. So a crafted weapon is going to be better than a maxed best in slots on heroic. So it's not worth to spend our dinars on that, you know. And well, that's basically what you want to buy from this vendor. Now let's go into the next part of the video. Okay guys, let's talk about enchantments, gems, and consumables. So enchantments and gems, they are basically the same as in the start of the season, you know. The only addition that we have is the corruption enchantments. I'll talk about them at the end, and I'll do a small recap on what you want to buy. You're also going to find the list here on your screen, so you can just go, if you are new Red Paladin, and buy these things from the auction house. So for your cloak, first you want to get a Chant of Winged Grace. This is just going to give you a nice amount of avoidance. For your chest, you want to get Crystal Radiance. This is going to give you main stat. For your wrist, you want a Chant of Armored Avoidance, which is going to give you like it says, avoidance. For your legs, you want to get your Stormbone Armor Kit, just giving you extra main stat and stamina. For your feet, you want to get Scout's March or Defender's March. Both are fine. One gives you speed, the other one gives you stamina. Both good options. For your rings, you want to get any combination of Radiant Critical Strike, Radiant Mastery, or Radiant Haste, depending on how the gear on your gear is looking, you know. Now, as for your weapon, I really recommend you guys to get Stormbone Armor Artistry because it is really strong combined with the amount of critical strike you're normally using, making those critical strikes a bit more chunky because of the extra mastery that you're going to be getting. Now, here we're going to be talking about the gems. You always want to get one Blasphemite, which is the culminating Blasphemite. That's just going to give you main stat and some extra critical damage. As you all know, we crit a lot, so this gem is a no-brainer. You know, you want to get one of each color gem, so one purple, one red, one blue, one green. Don't get the orange one, it's not worth it. So that's basically all for gems and enchantments. Now let's talk about the new enchantment that we got, which is the corruption enchantment. This one goes into your head. And well, there's two options here. The most safe and what most people use is the Rune of Void Ritual. It's just really good in almost all situations. You know, it gives you a bunch of stats over the duration of 20 seconds. Really strong. But I did some experimentation, and Rune of Twilight Devastation is actually pretty decent in places where there's not too many targets. So this enchantment is really strong in places where, for example, you use Execution Sentence. You know, we saw in the talent part, there are certain dungeons that have very little mobs, and Twilight Devastation does very well there. For example, Workshop, Theater of Pain, Rookery is even a good place to use Twilight Dev, because if whenever let's say the last boss of this place goes into the damage phase, that Twilight Dev that's going to be hitting him is going to be amped as well. It's really, really strong. Even though Retribution Paladins don't really stack versatility, we do stack a lot of critical strike, making Twilight Dev normally critical strike pretty often. And since it works really well with low numbers of targets, it's just a pretty decent option for those dungeons if you want to, you know, go a bit more further into tailoring for those places. Now, let's talk about consumables. Okay, so for consumables, we have some options here on the flask department. There's 3 flasks that I could recommend you guys to use. The first one is Flask of Alchemical Chaos. Personally, I don't like this one too much because it swaps your stats constantly. I'd rather have my stats being something like static. So if you feel the same, you can also go with Flask of Temperate Swiftness or Flask of Temperate Aggression, depending on how your personal stats are looking. As for your weapon rune or oil, you want the Elgariman oil, which gives you critical strike and haste. For your potion of choice, you want a temperate potion. And for food, I really recommend you go with the hearty salted baked seafood. Oh, salt baked seafood. It gives you half mastery and half critical strike. It's a bit more expensive. Obviously, if you don't have enough gold, you can always just go with the trusty Belladar's Bounty. It's very cheap and gives you their highest stat for 1 hour. So that's pretty much for consumables. Okay guys, on this last part of the video, I wanted to talk about honorable mentions on the trinket department. Yes, I know I talked already about trinkets, but those are the ones from the dinar vendor, you know. What if you are in the process of getting that 3k IO and you want to get something from other sources, you know? So I'm going to talk about Delve trinkets and the Horrific Vision trinkets, which are also incredibly strong. Now, from Delves, you got 3 options here. The first one is Funhouse Lens. This is a really strong on-use 1.5 minute trinket. Only downside, it sometimes can give you haste, sometimes can give you critical strike. Really want to get the critical strike. So 50-50 on this trinket, that is incredible, and 50% chance that it's just okay. The other trinket that we can get is the Mechanocore Amplifier. This is another really strong Delve trinket. It just has a really high uptime, around 40%, giving you extra secondary stats. Half of the time it's going to give you your highest, and half of the time it's going to give you your lowest. So yeah, another 50-50 on being great or just good. And the other trinket is going to be the Suspicious Energy Drink. This trinket doesn't have really a downside. It just has high uptime on mastery, around 40%. And it actually has a nice upside. If you're low health, it's going to give you extra mastery, which is just really decent trinket. Now, Horrific Visions actually have really reliable trinkets. Some of them that Blizzard said they were not going to do again, you know, like just passive stat sticks. You know, we haven't seen one of those in a while. I have one of them here, and this is the Dark Streamer's Talisman. This is just a very reliable trinket that has just strength and haste, period. It's going to work all the time, no uptime needed. It just gives you what it says. And there is other version that is even better because it has main stat and it also has critical strike. It's called the Void Whittled Spike here. The sad thing about these Horrific Vision trinkets is that we can only get them we only have 2 shots a week to get them, you know. You get 1 heroic piece from your 4 mask run, and you get 1 heroic piece from your 5 mask run. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer that they are RNG, but those are really strong ones because, like I said, very reliable. There are no strings attached. They just do what they have on the trinkets. Okay guys, that's all for honorable mentions on trinkets. And well guys, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope it helps you out and you enjoyed it. And if you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching everyone.